Howdy gaming people, Damon Master here with a brief look at Hood, Outlaws and Legends, recently released on PC, Epic and Steam, and also on consoles. I've seen a number of reviews online, a little concerned, some of them have only had very short play times, and they're sort of announcing, yes, you should definitely buy this, or no, you should definitely not buy this, and I feel that if you've only played for an hour, or maybe only had like 4 or 5 games, you're probably not in a position to sort of be preaching to the masses, but hey, what do I know? I'm 14 hours in myself, I'm level 50 on my account, my Marianne's maxed out. I did dislike the game to begin with. It really took me half a dozen games before I started to realise that I needed to stop trying to shove a square peg in a round hole and adapt my gameplay to the mechanics and the nuances of the game. If you're coming in from other squad-based deathmatch titles, or even single-player deathmatch titles, things like that, this isn't Overwatch, this is not Counter-Strike. If you just run in guns blazing, especially against a veteran team, you're going to die, repeatedly, and then you're going to get frustrated and angry, and then you'll leave a negative review. Take a step back, take a breath, and realise that you need to change your playstyle to suit the character that you're playing, and the game itself. If you're not prepared to do that, well, maybe this isn't the game for you. I personally haven't experienced any bugs of note. There is a 62 frame rate cap on PC, I think on consoles as well. The developers are working on that. I'm also Australian based, so there is a degree of latency. We bounce off the Singapore server. Servers are region locked. You can use VPNs to get around them, and if you've got a friend in another region and you join their game, you will be playing in their region, so you may see more latency there as well. The game was initially advertised with a strong emphasis on heists and stealth. It is in the game, stealth is extremely important. Heisting is obviously the objective of the game, but it really is a squad-based deathmatch title, first and foremost. Be aware of that. Okay, general tips. First of all, play with friends if able. This game is a lot better if you've got a squad of 4, even if it's only 3, heck, even 2 if you can, but more friends you've got on the team, the better time you will have with Hood. If you can get away with it. Pickup games are a bit of a mixed bag, like all online games. The game's initial instructions on how to play seems to be a little vague in places, and even go so far as to miss a couple of things, and one important thing is sliding. When you're sprinting with your character, if you tap the stealth button, you will just crouch, but if you hold it, you will slide. This is really important as some of the perks in the game offer invincibility when you're sliding, and it's also just a great way to get away from a pursuing John or some such. So holding the crouch or stealth button as you're sprinting will cause you to slide. Really handy. When you start a match, start with stealth. You should always start in stealth. If you are spotted by guards, your location will appear on the map to the enemy team. They know where your initial spawn point is now, where your team's default, you have 3 spawn points on the map that you can capture, and then each team has their own initial spawn point. That cannot be captured. That information is not typically available to the other team, but if you've alerted the guards at the start of the game, I know exactly where your spawning is, and that's going to come into my decision making later in the match. So start with stealth. You'll have an easier time of it. You'll get more XP by backstabbing and assassinating the guards. There's just no reason not to do it, but yet I still see people with account level 80, 90, 100 just trying to run in and set everybody off. I don't know why. Don't do it. Tag everything. Tag everything all the time. Tag every guard. Tag every ammo box. But most importantly, if you see an enemy player, tag them and keep tagging them. Tag the heck out of them. One, you'll get XP for it, but more importantly, that tag will persist for a period of time, so even if they duck into bushes, go around a corner, you're going to be able to see them, and your entire team is going to be able to see them, and that's really handy because there's still objectives in this game, and knowing what that enemy team is doing and where they're going is critical. So tag, keep tagging, tag the heck out of it. I personally rebound my tag. I don't like it on the mouse, I moved it to the keyboard, and I'm just spamming it all the time. Pick your fights. If you're going in 1v3, you're probably going to die, especially if you've just started playing this game. 1v2, you're probably still going to die. Pick your fights, and again, know that a melee versus a melee is going to be harder than a melee versus a ranger typically. So there's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors here, not a huge amount, but yeah, just be careful. You might want to rescue that teammate, but if he's being ganked by 3 people, you're not going to make a big difference. Or, the best you could do is probably hit them with some ranged if you've got it, and then lead them away. Range combat. This is something I see too often, especially with Robin. the hunter class, is I know you're drawing a string and you've got to line up your shot, but when you're just standing there in the middle of the street and you don't move, it makes it really easy for me to kill you, especially as Marianne. I'm going to dodge, you're going to miss, and then I'm going to shoot you in the face because I don't need to draw my string that long. You duck. Use cover, please. Okay, Robin is not made of titanium. Okay, crossbow bolts will kill him. So don't just stand still. Move around. Okay. Assassinations. It's a sore point for some people. They don't like them. It's a core part of the game. They're going to be here. If you don't like it, don't buy the game. Don't play the game. Assassinations. Use them, but also be aware of them. The biggest argument is the fact that you can use them in the middle of combat. I kind of understand where they're coming from there, but at the same time, you know, as I've played this game over the last few days, I've noticed people are becoming more and more aware of assassinations and getting better at avoiding them. So I think that's just a player skill thing that's coming over time. You see more and more now, the only time I'm assassinating another player in sort of the thick of combat is because they've turned their back to me because they've been distracted by another player. So they exist. Use them when you can. Doesn't matter what class you can assassinate, but be aware of them. Be careful. Think about where your back is. That's why your third-person perspective, the character is so close to the bottom of the screen, is so you can't see what's behind you. So be aware of them. Extraction location. Don't just rush off to the nearest point. Think about where your initial spawn was, the one that can't be captured. Think about where your enemy's initial spawn was if they revealed it. You want it to be as far away from their initial spawn as possible and as close to your initial spawn as possible. This may mean carrying the chest for some time, but it will be worth it. More often than not, if they've got to run halfway across the map, they're going to try and capture a spawn point closer to where you've put the chest, and if you can control that spawn point, they're going to have a real hard time of it. So don't always just rush off to the nearest location to drop that chest and extract it. Think about it. Capturing spawn points early on in the game, not such a huge thing. It's there and it's worth doing if you're passing through. Can be very critical endgame though. Again, if your enemy team's spawn point is a long way away, they're going to try and capture a closer spawn point. If you can double down on that spawn point and stop them from taking it, then you're going to have a much easier time. So don't ignore spawn points even when you're trying to extract a chest. Try and keep the closest spawn point under your control. You're going to lose. Deal with it. It happens. You are still going to get a bunch of XP and gold. If you manage to get some teammates on that winch and you're clicking that winch, you will get gold. Right? Even if you haven't been the final click, you will still get gold. You'll get XP from killing other players, you'll get XP from killing the guards in the castle, and it's usually not a bad chunk of change either, so don't get too frustrated with it. There's times where you're going to think that your enemy player has got, you know, tools, hacks, cheats, these sorts of things. You're going to say, "How I was in a bush. How the hell did they see me and shoot me in the head? I've done it. I've screamed into the microphone too." Realistically, you were probably tagged. If you were tagged by an enemy player and you didn't know about it, even if you're hiding in a bush, you're still highlighted bright red. They know where you are. If you set off the guards or a teammate sets off the guards in an area, you're highlighted and the enemy can see you, right? Took also has this ultimate ability, apart from healing, will also reveal your location. So there's a number of ways you could be tagged or revealed. Keep that in mind. I'm not saying there isn't tools out there, I know they are, but more often than not, you were probably tagged. Lastly, use common sense. Look at the map, see what's going on, right? If you've got your whole team dealing with a problem on one side of the map and you decide to just wander off to the other side of the map to kill some guards, you're an idiot, okay? Use some common sense. Look at what's going on. There's nothing wrong with branching off and going and capturing a spawn point to save the day or whatever have you, but actually look at the map. You don't need to be particularly good with combat or ranged, or you might say, hey, you know, I'm not that great with shooting people in the face. That's fine, but use some common sense. It will make a huge difference. Look at the map, look at the objectives, think about what's going on. Okay, some more specific tips for Marianne, who I've been maining and I'm trying to unlock Legendary with at the moment. Where other characters tend to stealth for the start of the game, and then once, you know, the vault has been breached and or the chest is starting to be extracted, once you've sort of got that point where the enemy team knows where you are and you're constantly engaging in combat, most other players will then dump stealth. It starts becoming, especially Took and John, they're going to be rushing in. For Marianne, you're going to want to remain in stealth for the most of the game. Stealth, you're an assassination class, you're all about getting those assassinations. Stealth is where it's at. Stick to your strengths. Hit those bushes and make sure that you're, you know, hard to see at all times. Stay in stealth. Stealth. Dodging. You can't block, but you can dodge. Dodging sideways I found to be largely a waste of time. Both John and Took have fairly good AoE attacks, like they're rather large circles. They will hit you if you dodge sideways. I dodge backwards once, sometimes twice, depending on the type of attack, and that does me. I get out of range. There is a perk that you can take as Marianne that extends that dodge range, costs a bit more stamina, totally worth getting. The amount of times that I get accosted by John, see him coming, he clicks his button to slam me, I've dodged out twice, and then I just bring up the crossbow and throw some bolts in his face and he dies. And then he gets angry. Dodge is great, use it, but use it well. Dodging backwards seems to be a lot more effective at this stage of the game for me anyway, than sideways. As Marianne, your first point of attack really should be assassinate. You should always be trying to get behind the enemy and finish them off in a single shot, single button press. If you can't, bows is the next best thing. Really don't rely on melee. The only time you should be using melee as Marianne is if, there's a Robin with almost no health left and you just sort of want to leap in or something like that. If there's an enemy player with almost no health left, you might leap in at that point just to sort of finish them off, especially if you're out of bolts. But by and large, don't use melee. Bad move, don't do it. Marianne, to me, I play her more like a jungler. It's all about that mobility, if you were thinking MOBAs. So there's times where I'm going to be on the main objective where we might be winching, or we might be escorting the chest out of the vault. But there's other times where I'm going to branch off and I'm going to deal with the problem. Usually to go capture a spawn point that needs to be captured because it's either going to enable us to get back in the fight a lot quicker, or more likely it's going to slow down the enemy team. So don't think that you sort of have to be on the point all the time. Things like John, he's really much more of a meat shield. He's a lot more of a defender as well as an attacker. He's much more likely to stay on objectives and not run around so much. For me, in my mind, Marianne is largely a very mobile character. That does come back to common sense though. There's times where you need to get on the point, you need to stop what you're doing and you need to go and get back on the objective. That also means you don't just go wander off the other side of the map and go check out the trees and the birds and the pretty flowers. So there's a bit more to think about, and definitely you want to really look at that map and see what's going on and play accordingly. Marianne has smoke grenades. They are really good on AI, especially when you got a bunch of guards that you just sort of can't get behind one without the others seeing. Drop a smoke grenade and then just assassinate all 3 or 4 of them. Largely rubbish on players. They will see through it. If you've been hit, then you'll have a health bar and they'll just aim at the health bar. If you've been tagged, then you're a red outline, it doesn't matter. So not particularly good on players. Can be handy if you're sort of trying to do something though and there's a ranger, like if there's a Robin a long way away, you can make it harder to hit, but by and large useless. Same with their ultimate ability, really good on AI. I'll use it to take out the guard in front of the vault, or if I've got a bunch of guards and I need to slip past them, or I want to try and sort of steal the key off the sheriff and he's like right in front of me. It's good for that. Again, against players, not so good. It's a bit of a you look like Predator, so they can see you. It doesn't really work, so don't really worry about using it on players. That's about all the tips I got for now. As I said, I'm only 14 hours in. I intend to play the game for quite a bit more. We've got new content, things like that coming as well. But you really need to be aware of what the game is before you go diving in. It may not be suitable for you, and you need to be flexible in your playstyle. Anyway, I hope this was useful to you in some fashion. If it was, don't be afraid to give me a follow or a like or any of those sorts of things. Maybe leave a comment, and maybe I'll see you on the battlefield soon. Thanks for watching.